Hi guys, and thank you for clicking on this video. Today we will be covering what the scope is of a Python program and what is the stack inside of programming. So let's go over into more detail once we get to our desktop. Okay, so before we begin, let's quickly discuss what a stack is. So over here you can see an image of a stack. So you might be wondering, what is a stack? So within every programming language, there's something called a stack. So all the variables you push in here. So for example, I see this box over here and I'm going to push it to the stack. But in this box can contain anything like, for example, a variable, a function object. So it doesn't matter within the program. So this is our, so to say, our stored memory for our program. So let's say we have a few variables defined. So let's say we have x equals 45. And we push it onto the stack, and we have y equals 10 and z equals a string. So you might see these two commands called the push and the pop. So what this does is the push, when you see the x equals 45, is going to push it on top of the stack. So the stack is like some sort of memory which you can access, and if you use the push command, then it's going to be on top of the stack. So this will come on top of this y equals 10. If we are going to say the pop, and the pop will always return the last element we put into our stack frame. So this is what's called a stack frame, and we are going to pop this last inputted item. So pop always returns the last inputted item and removes it from the stack. So let's say we have a function. So last time we covered functions. So now we can see this is something called global variables. So everything we have right now in our stack, so this will be our global program, is what is called a stack. So we have a few global variables inside of this stack right now. So let's say this is our Python program with variable x, y, z, and func1. So you can see these global variables are now assigned to the stack. And as you can see, func1 will be the object, and then it will give you the memory address. Later on in this course, we will go over into more detail what objects are. And memory address basically means where on your computer specifically is this function stored. So let's say we are now going to run func1. So what's going to happen is this will actually create an entire new stack. So this is the stack we already have, and it's going to build an entire stack within this stack. So only this block contains a whole new stack. So this was something what's called, we create a new scope of the program. So we are going inside of this function, and we're actually going to create a new scope. And what's going to happen if we create this new stack? All the global variables we have. So these are the global variables we have in our Python program. So let's say x, y, and z. Those will be pushed on to our new stack frame. So we create an entire new stack frame here, and those global variables will always be inserted inside of this new function. So over here we can access x equals 45, y equals 10, z equals string. And let's say we are going to define a new variable inside of this function. We say a is a new defined variable. So the string new defined variable. So we can access this variable a from within this function. So if we are inside the function, we can now actually access this new defined variable. But what we cannot do is we cannot access this variable a from within our global stack. So once this function is done executing, it will go on to the next block in the stack. And now we cannot access a anymore. So it will remove this stack. So this stack will be created temporarily to execute this function, and everything within this will be deleted. So if we are now over here going to try to call this variable a, we will not be able to call this. So this is the fundamentals of stack. Now let's go over to our Jupyter notebook to give it a more in-depth explanation. Okay, so once we're in our Python, we can see we have the variables defined for x, y, and z, the same as we did in our example. So let's print this out and let's see if this is working. So of course this is working. We can just print out x, y, and z. So now let's define, so this will be our stack right now for the entire program. So the variables x, y, and z. So now let's print out, so now let's define our new function called func. And let's say we create a new variable. So we create variable a, which has the value, this is inside func stack. So let's print out a. Of course, we can print out a. And let's call the function. This func is inside func stack. Okay, that works. So let's see if we can also print out x, y, and z. So let's print x, print y, and print z. Run the cells again. And now you can see we can actually call this x, y, and z values because that's something inside of the global stack. So this is inside of our entire program, and this will be passed on inside to the function stack. So now let's try to print out this a inside, which we define inside of the function stack. So this will be inside of our function stack. So this will not be in our global stack. So let's see if that's true. So now let's try to print out a. And you can see a is not defined because a is not defined in the global stack. So you can see a is only inside of this stack and not in the global stack. To make it global, we can do something called the global. And we can say global a. So now a will be referenced as a global variable from this function. So we now say you are allowed to put this a not only in the function stack, but also as a global variable stack, in the global stack as a variable. So let's run this again. Now let's see if we print a, if it's still working. And as you can see, now a is defined as a global in the global stack. So this is how a scope works. So each stack inside of another stack is called a new scope. And stacks is just the frame where we put everything in from our program, and it will be executed. And remember that the push and pop, so the last in, last out principle. And that's it for stack and scope. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one, hopefully. See you.